Hello and welcome to another episode of the midierror Meets podcast, the monthly music podcast where we talk to a wide range of people from the music world. This month I'm speaking to Rory Phillips, who is a producer, a DJ and a remixer based in London. Rory's got a really eclectic style when it comes to DJing. He was heavily involved in Trash in London throughout the mid-2000s. He's also a producer and remixer, and he's done a prolific number of remixes for some huge artists throughout his career. So I caught up with Rory to speak about his career, his influences, his motivations, and the first question I asked him was about his musical beginnings.
My mum tells a story about coming home to our house when I was a toddler, and I was grinding her Joni Mitchell record into the ground with hot chocolate powder.
Nice.
So I think that's my first musical related memory, but that's more a story told than a memory. But
did that sound good? Was that a good combination?
I have not a clue, but maybe it was an industrial toddler. I don't know. Grew up with a lot of pop music in the house, Beatles and things like that. And as a child, I got very into Dire Straits, like mainly because of the Money for Nothing video and the guitar riff on the intro.
Was it like a neon video? Am I right?
It was like a really early computer graphics video, which when you're a kid you're like, what is that? Mm-hmm. But yeah. Those are my early childhood memories of music.
Great. Dire Straits are brilliant. Like, I still love Dire Straits.
They get a lot of rap because they became like the kind of the band of the like Ford Mondeo driver, like very kind of Partridge fan base. But they've got some bangers, haven't they? Yeah, I love their stuff.
And so where did you progress on from destroying Joni Mitchell and listening to Dire
As a
Straits?
Teenager, I was really into indie rock and hip hop and kind of like rave, kind of breakbeaty kind of things. I was, I didn't really pick a camp and stick to it.
Mm-hmm. And whereabouts did you grow up?
I grew up in Birmingham.
All I could discover was it was the West Midlands.
Yeah, okay.
So I was thinking, where is it going to be? Is it going to be Stoke?
I'm from Birmingham, but we moved to Tamworth when I was about 10.
Oh, you got the ski slopes.
Yeah, there's the snow dome. Yeah.
Oh, it's the snow dome, isn't it?
Yeah. So is one of the first things people think of when they think of Tamworth. Not Julian Cope, not Robert Peel. Mm-hmm. Snow dome. Yeah.
So did you go to like club nights in Birmingham? What sort of things did you do there?
When I was a teenager, I went to there was an all ages kind of rave night at a small club called Rockwell's in Tamworth. Mm. And then it used to go to Snobs and Edwards in Birmingham. And Edwards was interesting because it was kind of like on one floor it was kind of an indie club, and then on the top floor there was kind of like a goth industrial night. So it was kind of like people would flip between the two. Mm-hmm. So you had these kind of like very, very kind of like intense subculture upstairs, and then just kind of like general kind of like moshing downstairs.
Yeah, and then like a smorgasbord in the corridor of like
yes, exactly, yeah,
jarring combinations
exactly.
of people. I went to university in Birmingham, and I went to Snobs a few times.
Right.
And it was great fun. It was absolute carnage.
Oh yeah, well, because it was like
carnage.
It was very like pound a pint, maybe even less.
Yeah. I thought I'd imagine that. I was telling someone the other day, I was like, I swear they had vending machines, and it was like £1 for like double vodka and Coke. Or
that might have been after my time, but it's believable.
It's nuts. Great times in there, though. Like, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a great place.
Yeah.
At the time.
Have you been back recently, like with the monorail and stuff in Birmingham?
I go back to my family because my family still lives there. The monorail was one of those mythical things I thought would never happen.
Yeah,
it's very odd.
I'd never even knew.
I've not ridden it. I've just seen it in town.
It's brilliant. It is amazing. I just went. I go through Birmingham to go home, and I went on the monorail to go and visit someone in Birmingham. I was like, this feels like the future. Finally, Birmingham's catching up with the rest of the world.
It's catching up with Springfield.
Yeah. Cool, yeah. So, you also mentioned Stock Aitken and Waterman were like a big influence.
Yeah, because actually, Kylie Minogue was probably my gateway drug on that. But yeah, like I really love that kind of that very like machine kind of like percussion, like we were talking about the 727. That's very like Stock Aitken and Waterman kind of.
Is it?
Yeah, high energy kind of production.
Yeah, what was it about that? I mean, they just had the Midas touch for like 10, 15
I think it's because they were really aware of what was going on in the clubs. Like Pete Waterman, because he was doing Hitman and Her as well. Like a lot of the stuff, like they were kind of channeling what was going on in America, but bringing it back. And they're kind of I would credit them for being responsible for house music being bigger here than it was in the US for a really long time, because they were kind of like making it a sort of accessible version of that, but then people were looking to kind of like, you know, the stuff that they were referencing. Like that's how Steve Silk Hurley got to #1 and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, they just seem to be able to manufacture hits.
Yeah, well, they had a very like Motown approach as well, because they did it all in house. They were the record label, they were the producers, they were the songwriters, so they could actually just get it in and out really quickly. And they had no major label kind of interference or anything.
It's perfect. And there's a huge amount of confidence behind doing that as well, isn't there?
Well,
you can't just have a good intention and make that happen. It's a serious coming together of many factors there, isn't there? Well,
that's it. I think they kind of like, I think Pete Waterman was like the salesman, because if you know, you've seen him on telly, he's a very confident kind of like direct guy, isn't he? And you know, they were all kind of working in the studio, but I think like some of them were more kind of, you know, the studio guidance, and one was kind of like essentially A&Ring and kind of like pushing it and being the kind of mouthpiece for them.
Yeah, amazing, really amazing what they did. Like, I don't know if we'll ever see something like a Little Hit Factory team like that ever again. I
don't know. Like, I think now more than ever, it's kind of like possible. Like, it could be even smaller. It could be literally like, I mean, you know, I'm sure there are subcultures we don't know about where that's happening. But yeah, maybe not on a pop level, but at the same time, it seems more possible than ever, because everything's super accessible, because that would have been, you know, a huge outlay to start that studio.
Yeah,
but at the same time, anyone can start a label now, and because especially as, you know, there's no physical product that needs to be made or anything.
Yeah. You know. Yeah. Cool. Okay, so we're now in London.
Yeah.
We're now in.
Well, you can hear the train.
Yeah. Guess where we are. Yeah, you've got an amazing studio here.
Oh, thank you.
An amazing array of equipment that we could probably just spend an hour and a half talking about all the gear, I imagine. So yeah, when did you move down to London? When did that happen?
Moved 20 years ago this year. After I studied in Wales for 3 years and then moved here. Started working at Radio 1 behind the scenes on their website. Yeah.
Nice. What did you... I mean, that must have been really exciting to be working at Radio 1.
Yeah, because it was. I was kind of I was putting together the website. I was kind of the one technical guy on the website, but at the same time, kind of, it was a really exciting place to work. It was just pop stars passing, because it was a really quite a small building at that time. Now it's huge. It's just pop stars passing through like it was no big deal. You just become very used to it.
Did it freak you out in the beginning?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Wow. Well, in my first week, I managed to trip over John Peel when he was sleeping under his desk. So that you know, that was a big eye opener.
At least you got yourself known. I
don't think he noticed.
That's amazing dedication. He's sleeping under it. But yeah, that's cool. When was that? Like,
so 99 till about 2002, I worked there.
Amazing. What did you study in Newport?
Multimedia, so like digital art. So I was doing a lot of stuff with kind of interactive things on the computer with music, or, you know, virtual instruments and things like that.
Oh, cool. Were you using like Macromedia Director?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah, because that was big for ages.
Yeah.
It was like a huge fad, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, it was because I mean, it was the era of the CD-ROM as well. So it was kind of that was what made the content that would be on CD-ROM. Like if you had a bonus feature on something.
Yeah.
And then they kind of like hastily kind of like shoehorned it to be on the web, and then kind of Flash sort of came after that, didn't it?
Yeah. The Flash was amazing. But yeah, I mean, even with old like computer music magazines or any old CD you get, you put it on and be like, It's director. It's the thing with director. And it's always like you press the button and then the sound comes about 20 milliseconds later, and then you get this like GIF image of like some animation of a line.
They weren't doing it properly. Mine were never like that.
Have you seen that clip where Pete Tong reads out a hyperlink?
Yeah, that's before my time. We had a domain name at that point.
Right.
It was a very, very lengthy hyperlink.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess maybe that was the really early 90s, because even he's bemused by like, what the hell am I reading this http /://.
Well, we did a bunch of exciting stuff with Pete Tong. We did when video was a minuscule like 1-inch window on your screen, we did a thing where we'd simulcast like live visuals during his show.
Nice.
A few times, which at the time was very, it hadn't really been done, and it was very new world.
Yeah.
His Real Player and on Real Player.
Yeah, streaming.
Because they had a video artist in residence. Well, they had an artist in residence at Radio 1, and this was kind of like something we did with him.
Mm-hmm. And was that like studio shot, or was?
No, it was like computer, like kind of visual mixing, like you'd see in the background of a DJ on a giant LED.
Oh,
now.
Cool. Do you use that stuff now, like when you play live?
No.
Boot up directory again.
Bring it back.
Yeah. Or the MIDI notes.
I'll just resurrect my Mac 7600.
Yeah. Get all the floppy disks out.
Zip drive.
Oh, it's a zip drive. Super advanced. Yeah, I miss the zip drives. I just never had.
I don't.
So you've lived in London for about 20 years?
Yeah.
That's cool, man. You've been involved in quite a few nights here, and how did you integrate yourself into the city when you came here?
Well, very shortly after moving here, I've started going to Trash, which was Erol's night at the time. It was at a much smaller venue than the End. It was like a place called the Annex on Dean Street. And I'd been DJing when I was studying, and I saw kind of like a kindred spirit in him. Like he was playing indie music but mixed with dance music, but also pop music, which, seems very normal now, but it wasn't really what was being done, because clubbing was very conservative. It's like you went to your house club to listen to house music. Yeah, exactly. Things were in their pockets, and it just seemed like, okay, we're on the same page. And we got talking, and we end up having like a 1.5 hour phone chat the next day, and then I started kind of helping him with his website, helping with the Trash website. And then when the Annex closed down, we had the offer to move to the End, and the End had a second room, so he asked if we'd be interested in doing that room.
Nice, man. Yeah. That's great.
It was the longest trial run in history.
I love because there's a couple of quotes from him I've written down. One of them was there was never any vision for Trash. There was never like a thing that was set out, an objective. There
was standards rather than an ambition. It was just kind of like we wanted it just kind of to be before that it was a term of a safe space for people, because the End was like, the End on a weekend was very different to the End on a Monday night when we did Trash. So you kind of had to kind of filter the door a bit to make sure everyone was there for the right reasons, and we're not going to kind of like be poking fun at people for the way they dress or how they present themselves. Yeah,
bowling round.
And I think we did a really good job at like keep some people. Obviously we didn't get it right 100% of the time because it's impossible. But I think we did a really good job of keeping it a kind of safe space.
Yeah, and a continual party atmosphere as well. According to many accounts.
Yeah.
Sounds great, man. I've been looking into it a lot over the last few days, and it ticks a lot of my interest in terms of like the way you play like indie electro and pop, and mashing that together. It's such a great fusion. You can. Yeah.
Well, it's about finding the things that link them.
Mm-hmm.
That's why when Electroclash started, that was a really good kind of like gateway. But it was a good kind of like in between the two worlds.
Mm-hmm.
It made that, it was very exciting for that reason.
And it was on a Monday night, wasn't it?
Yeah, every week.
So that's a whole that's a whole new slant on a club night, isn't it?
How
On a Monday night.
Well, at that time, kind of indie clubbing in London was very much in the week. There actually wasn't that much to do on the weekends.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd have Trash on a Monday, there'd be like other clubs on Wednesdays and Thursdays, and I think it was because, you know, a lot of it was probably aimed at students, but it was all very in central London as well,
Mm-hmm.
which is not really very common anymore now. Like, this was all in Soho.
Right. Cool, yeah. In the end was the club owned by Mr. C
Yeah,
from The Shaman.
yeah.
Nice. And the guests, the people that turned up, the bands that played there, the guests that turned up were like seminal music artists. This night seems to have like just captured a whole era in like our zeitgeist of...
Well, the thing is, it all looks very impressive now, but at the time we were just booking kind of like what we were playing, and these people were very new at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But the good thing about Trash is that because we had such a kind of regular following, the club was the star. So if we could present music we liked, we didn't have to worry about whether people would show up for the band or not,
mm-hmm.
because we were trying to shine a light on them. So it gave them it was a good platform for those bands to play.
Yeah, and I really like the approach of like not announcing headliners and things like that, like keeping that back, because
mostly it was announced, I'd say, apart from like, you know, if someone was really big, like too big for the venue, we'd have to keep it secret, but most of it was announced, and it was always a £5.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's incredible. What time did it like start and finish on a Monday?
10 till 10. Started at 10, finished at 3.
Right, no, that's fairly respectable. It's not
Yeah.
like you could just about still go to work the next day.
Yeah, exactly. Which I did do for a while. I did,
Nice.
but I was young, so.
Did you like keep that on the quiet at work? Like, no, I've just
I made I made the mistake of letting them know, because so I couldn't really call in sick, because they were very aware of what I was doing on a Monday night.
Yeah, just flew again.
Yeah, it's like, oh, funny that.
Yeah, you hurt your shoulder from carrying not records. It was something else. What was it? And yeah, were you playing? I'm guessing you were playing records then, like actual.
Yeah, I'd say
records?
mostly records, and the CDs kind of filtered in. The CDs were usually things that weren't out on vinyl,
Mm-hmm.
but it was just how we played records, because that's how we learned how to DJ.
Yeah, and what's your preferred medium now when you're playing?
Ideally, if I can, when I play in London, I play with vinyl. But if I'm travelling, you know, practicality's sake, I use USBs, but also love the 2000s anyway. Kind of gave me a bit of a lease of life after years of just being on CDJs.
Mm-hmm. Nice, man, nice. Yeah, because your mixes are amazing.
Oh, thank you.
The amount of people I've recommended your mixes to is phenomenal. I'm always, and they've always surprised me. I've always had them on my iPod and been on like a long journey. I've been listening to something for like 45 minutes. But who is this? It's brilliant. That's another one I've always.
Oh, it's him again.
No, it's just really great, and it's a bit of an education, I think, for people who don't have a broader spectrum of influences as you do. It's a bit of an education for somebody like me or anyone else who listens to go, wow, what is that track? That's brilliant.
Oh, that's very kind of you. Thank you.
Yeah, really good stuff. Really enjoyed it. Okay, just going about talking about records, I was thinking about because during Trash there was a bit of a mashup sort of culture of mixing tracks together, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Like the Blue Monday Kylie Minogue
Right.
thing that Erol did.
Yeah.
And I think there was another one, Baby One More Time and Loaded.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
By Primal Scream, which I still can't quite imagine. But yeah, I was thinking about Blue Monday, and I was thinking about how amazing that record sleeve design was, and how
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
incredible and forward thinking it was. I wanted to ask you if you know of any like similar record sleeves that have like taken your captivated you in the same way that one did.
There's like a limited version of Speaking in Tongues by Talking Heads. I hope I'm not wrong on this, but I think it's Robert Rauschenberg did the artwork, and it's kind of a transparent sleeve and the record, but you can kind of like it's got a rotating element to it, so the artwork can change It's like a rotate, like a kind of like variable artwork.
Right, nice.
Yeah.
Like those code wheels you used to get on old computer games.
Yeah, not dissimilar. Like, but is that kind of that kind of like imprinted in wheel.
Nice, because I was trying to rack my brains because I have a bit of a record collection. The only one I could think of that was really funny or totally different was Monty Python. There's a Monty Python record called Instant Record Collection, and it folds out into a box
That looks like a record collection.
It looks like a record collection. You can put it on your shelf, and it looks like you've got loads of records. And it like says the Rolling Stones and all that stuff on it. And it's genius. Like it actually,
I've not heard of that. That's genius.
It is really cool. Yeah, it's huge. I just grabbed my attention. And what about sort of records? So like you'd when you play trash and things like that, you would play a total mix of all kinds of styles. Do you have, what would be your sort of go-to records that you'd like, is going to take the roof off and is going to work if you need to pull it out at some point?
I say it really changed over time because there was a real emphasis on new music at Trash, so that would really kind of like depend on the month or the year. But off the top of my head, I can't really think of one in particular. I'm sorry.
Because I was thinking of like when I would DJ, and I know this is like not really about me at all, but Anthrax, Bring the Noise, and Public Enemy.
Right. Okay.
I just knew that whatever I was doing, if I played that record, everyone would go nuts again. It was always like the go-to, like, oh shit, it's going wrong. Let's fit that on. Good track. I love that track. Going back to talking about Trash, and you saying about new music was quite pioneered. There was a story about urban hymns being given to Erol Alkan before it had been out, and he got asked to play it.
That was before my time, so you'd have to ask Erol about that one.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah.
I have to ask him. I thought it was so cool. Like the manager apparently came to the end and gave him the first version of it and was like, "This is for you."
I know that happened with Elephant by the White Stripes.
Really?
Yeah, and basically played Seven Nation Army the first time any of us had heard it. He hadn't even listened to it yet. He just like listened to the beginning. He's like, "Oh, that sounds quite good," and literally put it on, and it went off.
No way.
It was the first time any of us had ever heard it, and that's such a kind of it's a football chant now.
Yeah, it is. Unfortunately, it's sort of been bastardised.
Political chant even.
Yeah, great. I mean, that's one of those songs that the moment you hear it, you're like, this is something. Yeah. This is something big.
But that's it. It's one of those songs. It's hard to imagine a time where it didn't exist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Good. So you've gone on to DJ and produce.
Yeah.
Many a remix for Taylor Swift, Franz Ferdinand, Crystal Castles, The White Lies. Can't read my own writing. XX, The Gossip Sisters. Yeah, I mean, when did you start remixing? When was the inception of doing that for you?
I think I've always made music like on 4 tracks things, and I think remixing was I started about maybe 15 years ago. I think because Trash was successful at the time, we both Erol and myself got offers to remix things, and we both, I think I could, I can't speak for Erol obviously, but I think remixing is a really good way of figuring out how songs work, because you're presented with the parts of it and you're like, oh, okay, these are these things that work together and make the result.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I mean, I did years of remixing before like actually making anything myself, but yeah, sometimes it's quite daunting to remix a song you really like, but also sometimes it's quite exciting to remix a song you really don't like very much, or you're indifferent about.
Yeah,
because it's kind of you can be a bit more destructive with it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's great that like people coming to you for remixes and I guess you got established for doing remixes.
Yeah,
and then I guess that.
But it was also that kind of like there was a period where kind of every release had about 5 remixes on, which I'd say is less common now in kind of the indie rock world or the commercial world. Mm-hmm. Still very common in the dance world.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard some people say, like Marshall Jefferson said, like, don't do remixes for anyone. Like, if you're new and upcoming, Marshall Jefferson said, like, don't do remixes because every person out there is remixing everyone else. and you're basically just like diluting the bucket of music by doing remixes.
Right.
But go on.
I don't know. I think there's an argument as an artist for not having remixes, if you believe that. But I do think it's a really good way of kind of finding your feet, whether you release them or not. You know.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with that. And from my own point of view, I love doing remixes, whether they are released or not.
Yeah.
Mostly not. But you know, like I enjoy it. Yeah, like having access to all the stems and seeing like, okay, that's what they did with the kick drum and the bass, and that's how that vocal worked. And there's a reverse reverb there. And
I mean, a lot of artists are very democratic about like sharing the parts as well and putting them out there so you can remix them.
Yeah. I think it's a really good way of getting your stuff out there. Which of your remixes have been like the most gratifying for you?
There's one I did for a band called Units, which is like a 1980s synth punk band a record that I really, really loved. So that was quite daunting. But then somehow, after I've been playing this record out for years in its original form, and I think in the MySpace years, the Units reappeared as a kind of like accessible normal people that you can speak to on MySpace, and we became I know. And then I got chatting to Scott from the Units, and I interviewed him because Erol's site had content on and still does. Interviewed him for Erol's site, very lengthy interview, and he asked if he's like, "Oh, I've been checking out your stuff. Would you like to remix us? Because we're re-releasing High Pressure Days." So I did that, and that's kind of been the one people still, and it's been almost 10 years, and that's the one that people still kind of like say, "Oh, I really love that remix."
Great, that's awesome. And I did read an interview where you spoke about that, saying it was one of your favourite albums of all time.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, was that a daunting prospect when the files came through?
A little, yeah.
Like, oh fuck.
But what he did do, he sent me kind of like a few kind of like live bootlegs of them around the time, and it was kind of a live version of that song that had a very different arrangement, and I was kind of, oh, okay. And so and it was a bit more kind of almost like Speaking in Tongues era, Talking Headsy, kind of like, bit funkier, and I kind of like decided to go that route with it. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of like really made me see the song in another way. I was like, okay, this is the kind of thing that can be done with it. If they can remix themselves like that, that can be done.
Excellent. You've also mentioned the production process for you is sort of was an alien world because you had like a lack of formal training in it. So how did you overcome that?
It's still not an easy thing for me. I mean, I'm more of a kind of like, as you can see, like a gear person. But the good thing about computer software and DAWs is that you can kind of draw in the notes, correct the mistakes, kind of make it sound more of a mistake. You can kind of bluff your way through it in a way that does make sense.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think trial and error is how a lot of us have made music, like pre-YouTube. Yeah, I'm guessing for you, like, I
mean, I've learned a lot about music theory and harmony and melody, but at the same time, I'm not kind of an instant player. I'm more of a kind of more of a programmer than anything else.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that. Absolutely. I just tell people I play the computer. And if they want to play, because I don't really play keys, I don't play the synth. But
that's the thing when you're
tinkering
with electronic music, you're also you're in charge of every instrument,
Yeah, exactly, and the movement of it.
Yeah.
And you started up a subscription-based label.
Yeah.
Which had quite an inventive idea behind it.
Yeah, it was. So it was called Mixed Fortunes, and it was kind of, you subscribed as a flat fee, and you would receive a record in the post every few months of original material. So it was a good idea. Sent me to the poorhouse a little bit because just after I started it, Royal Mail was sold off. And certain limits that had been put on the price of postage were lifted, and we had the biggest postage increase in history.
The stars aligned.
Yeah, exactly. But what did it end up happening? I mean, even though I then I bulk bought like about £500 worth of stamps, because if you buy a first class stamp or a first class large stamp, they retain they have whatever the current value is.
Right.
So because I knew it would happen again next year, and it did. It happened again and again and again.
So that was wow. Can you do that? Can you like trade stamps? Is that?
I mean, possibly, yeah. You could invest in stamp futures if you wanted to.
Yeah.
I said the returns would be quite low, but at the same time, it kind of like it did save me a little bit. But yeah, it was a good excuse to get some original music out there in a kind of inventive way, because it was. Everything streaming was in its infancy, and the way music was being delivered was changing a lot. So you had to kind of like think of new ways of presenting it. And I didn't really want to make an album because I had these songs that were kind of quite disparate and didn't really sit together. So a series of singles would be a good way of presenting them. Definitely.
And I think that sort of ingenuity is like what's required now in music, because nobody really wants to release an album, and sort of single sales, I don't know, like single sales aren't strong. So I think that sort of inventive release method is exactly like what's required, sort of that out of the box thinking.
I mean, obviously did invent the idea because Rough Trade used to do a singles club in the 80s and 90s, and Sub Pop did singles club. But at the same time, I'm seeing it's becoming a lot more common. That kind of it's good. It's good because it's also it's a good indication that people trust you, and they believe that they don't know what they're going to get ahead of time.
Yeah, I think it's a really commendable thing, and you sold out of your copies, didn't you? You had a few hundreds.
Yeah, because it was very small runs. So
cool, great. I just want to ask you as well about I don't know if this was you that tweeted this, but there's a track called Blank Spaces called Mixed Signals. I'm pretty sure you tweeted about it sometime. What is that track? It's so good.
So it's Blank Spaces is my friend Daniel Gallagher's band, or it's his project, and Mixed Signals was myself and Martin Dubker.
Right.
We did a remix for Martin produced the original record, and me and Martin did a remix together under the name Mixed Signals, because Martin played it. I did a Mixed Fortunes live show for a while, and Martin played in that, and we decided to call it Mixed Signals.
Great, because I remember that from like maybe 2 years ago. You tweeted it. That is such a great song. I love it. It's like I've shared that with so many people who are into like 80s music, who are into like electronic music. It's just so brilliant. The lyrics are amazing.
Their original stuff is really good. Blank Spaces.
Is it?
Yeah. Check them out. It's very like. I mean, he's British, but he's based in New York now. It's very kind of Talking Headsy, like early Talking Heads.
There's lovely synth on that.
Actually, can't remember. I remember. All I remember is we kind of like were going for kind of a bit of a Eddie Grant Time Warp thing. I actually can't remember what it sounds like.
It's good.
I need to revisit it. Yeah,
revisit it. It's fucking great. I wish if I could get it on vinyl, I definitely would. It's like it's seriously good track that. Good. So I came about. I found out about your stuff from Little Boots remix that you did.
Yeah.
As well, which was on. It was on one of her vinyl releases, wasn't it?
I don't think it was on vinyl, but it was like she did like a bunch of like 2 EPs of remixes. It was on one of those, I believe.
Yeah, she did a sort of similar sort of like sort of anti-music industry thing by setting up her own label away from the 360-degree contract she had a few years ago. Really commendable, and she seems to be doing amazingly well. Well,
she's very much on her own, and kind of being the boss bitch character she presented on Working Girl.
Right. Yeah, she did a video recently where she's like in a forest, DJing in a forest in some incredible location. They've got like drone cameras just flying around as he's
I didn't
DJing
see that.
next to a fire. Check it out, it's amazing. It is really spectacular.
I just saw her today.
Good, yeah. So you talked about working at Radio 1 and tripping over John Peel while he was asleep. You've also mentioned that he's a very big influence on you musically.
Yeah, because he was kind of he was very, 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 very up to the minute and clued up about what was going on, but he also wasn't precious about it, and also he was kind of didn't really care for genres so much either, and that was always kind of very influential to me. You know, he would play a very twee indie band and then a death metal record and a happy hardcore record.
Yeah.
I mean, some of his old shows are on SoundCloud, and they're still like pretty astonishing to listen to, especially as this was on Radio 1.
Oh yeah, Chris Morris was on Radio 1.
Yeah, it's very true.
Which is an amazing thing to listen to. I mean, quite forward thinking for Radio 1 to be employing people like that were really sort of edgy and weren't afraid of rocking the boat a bit, Yeah. It's quite safe now, isn't it? Radio 1. I don't think you'd.
Well, I mean, in a lot of ways, the additional choice that we have with broadcasting and also like listening to music and the amount of music that is being presented, it means that things are kind of like less curated in a way, or they're kind of a bit more conservative because we're going back to things being in their pockets again. Like this station plays this music, this station plays this music, etc., etc. Whereas, Radio 1 was duty bound because there was no digital equivalent. There was no 6 Music yet. To kind of present a wide range of music. Yeah. That wouldn't really fit on Radio 4 or Radio 3 or Radio 2.
Yeah, it was cool. I remember being a young kid and listening to John Peel, and some records would be like, I've never heard anything like that before. And I remember, it's like Noise Core or some Gabba.
I mean, Radio 1 doesn't really even have a kind of flagship indie show anymore, when it used to have like 2 or 3 a night, because it did have the evening session. And I know this podcast is going very like the good old days vibes, but that's how it's about. But that's how it was. They farm that out to 6 Music now.
Yeah. I'm absolute. I love 6 Music. Listen to it basically all the time. It's really cool. Good. And let's. I guess. What do you like to use in the studio then? You've got an amazing collection of gear here. Let's continue the nostalgia.
Okay, what is it? Back to the 70s and 80s. What's... I use MS-20M a lot, which is the kind of kit module version of the MS-20. The SH1 is a beast bass lines.
Yeah.
Nice. The Bizarro Juno, which is this thing here. It's a Yamaha, Roland HS60, which is essentially a Juno 106, but kind of repackaged for the home market with speakers built in.
No way. It looks a bit like a Casio, like a PSR keyboard these get.
It's the exact same synth as Juno 106.
Really?
Yeah.
Like analog.
If you open it, if you open it up, it says Juno 106 inside.
Does it?
Yeah.
That's nuts. I've never even seen one of them. Yeah, it's all. I mean, all the filters and all the
everything's in the same place. It's just a different paint job.
That is crazy. Wow. Yeah, because there is a rack, isn't there? There's a Roland HKS or something like maybe.
That's an MKS.
That's it,
the Super Jupiter. Yeah, they're very, very expensive.
This is nuts. I mean, you could pass this in a sort of a charity shop. It
used to be like the low key bargain.
Yeah. Is it not?
No. People kind of twig to it now.
Damn it.
I know. I think that was like under 200 quid. No. I think most of the stuff in here is all from like junk shops and early eBay and loot and things like that. Like very little of it cost over £200.
Brilliant, that's the way to do it. You've done well here, because we're just surrounded by analogue circuitry that's like early 80s, maybe even late 70s.
Yeah, the ARP Omni, that's the I got that from a jumble sale.
Nice.
But that's like the It's on the Units remix, but it's the Love Will Tear Us Apart string synth sound is an ARP Omni.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh wow, fantastic! I love string synth. I don't think there's any nicer sizzling synth sound than the string synth.
That's a really great one. Sadly, it's a bit broken at the moment.
Yeah, you need a new key there.
Do you need a new key? It needs like a total overhaul. Sadly, I think like it did the Units remix and it kind of like just gave in.
Mm-hmm. Well, it did the job.
It did the job. Yeah, exactly.
It did the big one.
And speaking of the big ones, the Yamaha CS30, which I lugged back from Japan.
Did you?
Yeah.
Wow. It's in really good nick. It looks.
Well, the thing is, in Japan, like everything is they're kind of very like if you go to a record shop, every record is in absolutely incredible condition. It makes you wonder where the ones that aren't in good condition go, because they're very particular about these things. Like yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Ban it, one scratch, chuck it in the furnace.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is in amazing condition, and yeah, we were talking just before we started recording about the filter and the sound of these
on the CS series.
Yeah,
they've all got the same one. This is a 3 oscillator, which is kind of a beast. Well, it's 2 oscillator and a sub oscillator.
Mm-hmm.
And you can route the filters into each other on this one as well, because it's also got 2 filters. So yeah, and you can like route them into each other.
Wow, that must be beefy as hell.
Yeah. Well,
do they have separate envelopes?
You've got three envelopes to choose from. You can. It's sort of like it's almost like a modular, but with switches. Like you can got lots of kind of crazy routing on it. Yeah. So there's 3 envelopes to choose from, and you can send whatever to them.
Awesome. So I guess you could also do like stereo input. Can you have like stereo?
It's got stereo. It's got like a pan. It's got 2 outs. Like you can stereo like each oscillator.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
So it's sort of stereo.
Yeah.
You can pan each oscillator if you wanted to.
Quality. I love the CS series. I reluctantly sold my CS5 to someone because it was falling to pieces.
Right.
I thought I'm just going to get a new one. Still haven't done it yet.
I mean, my 10, I don't think I'll ever sell it because it was the first proper analog synth I ever bought. And it's kind of got a lot of sentimental value on that front.
God, yeah, they're so dark.
Yeah.
I think it's just the downward ramp on the LFO. There's something about that.
Right, yeah.
It's just darkness. You can never make it sound.
Well, it's that and the high pass. It's like that's that jonk you're talking about, exactly.
Yeah. There's just something about that.
And when you filter other gear through it as well, it's really, again, like that high pass filter is really, because it's not that harsh. It's actually quite soft.
Yeah.
Like the oscillators seem harsh, but like I don't know. The end result always comes out quite dark, but the filters are actually pretty soft on it.
Yeah, it's sort of warming is it's probably like an overused word that doesn't really mean anything anymore. But there's like a richness.
Yeah,
it really pushes through. Yeah, I love them, and it's sort of early Crystal Method stuff. I'm pretty sure they ran stuff through the CS filter because you can hear it, and then if I play it on the CS, I'm sort of hearing early Crystal Method.
Although I do know that if you go to there's that one vintage synth site, might be vintagesynth.com. If you look at any synth, it says as used by Daft Punk, Apollo 440 and the Crystal Method. It's like okay,
808 state.
It's literally every single synthesizer has.
Just copy and paste that. Exactly. Well, funnily enough, I worked at Luke Masters for a few years.
Oh yeah, of course you did.
And I would use those for my research when I was doing product pages.
Right, okay.
Writing about the synths of like as used by. I think I did put Little Boots in one of them just after we saw her gig. I think it was I did a
probably an
MS-20. It was the Pro 1. I did a Pro 1 sample pack.
Oh right.
And I put as used by, and I added Little Boots in there. Because we just met her that weekend and given her like an arpeggiator that my mate makes under this drum. And it's quite funny actually. I was really pissed at the gig when we went to see her play. So we managed to give the support band some hardware that my mate makes.
I'm aware of his gear. Yeah,
it's brilliant. It's really amazing. And so we made sure that like she had one. These was in the really early days of trying to promote Jason's stuff because Jason doesn't promote his stuff. And so we're like, yeah, fucking hell. I knew the support band, so I was like, yeah, can you give that to her? And then when she was on stage, really near the end, I was hammered. Like, I don't really drink much anymore. I was super hammered. No, she'd already had it. And she was like, oh, who gave me the arpeggiator and the thing? I was like, yeah, that was me. And she was like, yeah, the soldering doesn't look very good on it. And I was in front of the whole fucking audience. I was like, are you joking?
She's from the north, they don't mess around. They don't mess around anymore.
I can't remember my reaction, but I was like, what? Are you serious?
No, your friend stuff, because when we did a Mixed Fortunes live show, there was a couple of things. We used Omnichord live, but it's very bulky.
Yeah,
essentially only used it on one song. I was kind of looking for kind of a similar solution at one point.
I remember you said about it being a non-touch.
Yeah.
That's totally possible, like the capacitance of the body.
Yeah. And the other thing was we did, it's before he did, he now does a kind of MIDI kind of like voltage things, like for like, you know, lamps and LEDs and things like that.
Yeah.
We had a light show that was all controlled by MIDI, and we kind of built this kind of like quite rudimentary controller for it, which sometimes worked, sometimes didn't. And his kit for that would have been an absolute godsend at that time, but it didn't exist at the time.
Yeah, it's really good, that, and it's sold out very quickly, the MIDI Switcher.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to have done a product demo for that and still haven't done it yet. But yeah, it's a great device. You literally just enable to note on, note off, or turn the light on and off. The CCs all fade.
And that's
light
it.
up
And
down.
well, that's it. Like, I didn't have anything that would fade. That's
right. I can send you one. I can
that'd be amazing.
make sure one comes your way.
okay, great. I have to start playing live again.
Yeah. There are a few videos of you playing live on YouTube and stuff.
Yeah. We only did 5 shows, but they were a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's just expensive to do it because, you know, I have to pay everyone, and you know, it's we didn't. Yeah, from playing in other bands, I kind of like knew how to kind of not do it, so I kept it quite small gear wise. But it was still kind of like tough to sell, and also a tough to kind of financially be financially viable.
Yeah, I guess you have to like. It's something that you have to like build up, and like if you could.
Yeah, well, this thing is not. It's if you're playing with kind of a backing band, it's not that thing where you're a band and you're all in it together, and like you'll sleep on a few floors to get there. These are people like they're doing a job, so you should be paying them.
Yeah.
And as you know, they're both they're very good friends, but at the same time, kind of like, you know, I wouldn't expect them to do it for free. So
yeah, I'd just get you a couple of drinks.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all right, isn't it? But you did tour with a band called Whitey.
Yes,
as well.
Yeah, that's how I knew how not to do it.
Oh, okay. Really?
Yeah,
that was a blueprint.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. What was that like? What did you do with them?
So I played synth. Whitey's kind of. I used to live with him years ago, but it's kind of like a very much like an almost LCD sound system kind of setup where it's one guy mainly in the studio with kind of like session musicians here and there, and then on live it's a full band. And I was brought in to kind of like make it a bit less backing tracky and a bit more live. So we did 2 tours of the USA, opening for Peaches on one of them, which was really fun.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, it's I think that every DJ should be made to do like a shitty van tour across America. So they won't really complain about, you know, not having the right peanuts on their rider after doing that.
Cool. Where did you go to?
Literally
like,
coast to coast in the US, so New York all the way to LA, like down through the south.
Nice. Wow.
Yeah.
Would you do it again?
Maybe. I don't know. It's quite, because the thing is, you forget how vast America is. It's 16-hour drives and just to get to the next kind of major town. So yeah, and this was all like in a white van. This wasn't like, there was no beds, no reclining seats even.
Nice.
But
that's the way to do it, isn't it?
But at the same time,
really,
you know, but that's it. But at the same time, I got to see, you know, got to see America in a way I would never have seen it any other way. You know, I'm not going to go back to Gainesville, Florida anytime soon.
Nice. Cool, man. Yeah, he did a song Nonstop, which I had on vinyl.
Yeah.
Which was, a really cool track. It was one of those ones that just came out of nowhere. I was like, oh, maybe even bought it because of the front cover.
Right.
But yeah, it's a really sort of jamming sort of tune. I wanted to also ask you about I guess going back to records a little bit. You tweeted not long ago about having you accidentally played a version of a track which had like a woman orgasming over the top of it.
Oh no, there are a lot of records like this, but there's nothing worse than like being halfway through playing a record and you forget that it has a section where a woman is having an orgasm.
Yeah.
It was very popular in the late 70s, early 80s. You're like, oh no. Especially
Right,
if you're
so
like playing it like a posh place, like somewhere very like well-to-do. You're like, oh Christ, I forgot about this bit. Abort.
Yeah, I mean, what are you borrowing for records?
Yeah, exactly. Looking for the next one.
Just go and get like the intern, the glass washing guy to stand behind the decks for a minute. Yeah, I thought that was hilarious. I think we've all been there where you're playing a record in front of people and you're like, this is the wrong side, or this isn't the one I normally play. And I did that story just tickled me a lot. I just thought like, oh God, I know that feeling. Yeah, amazing. And you also said something interesting about every other person can be a DJ nowadays.
What did I say?
I think it was basically that.
I mean, it's true. I mean, it's the starting point is more accessible than ever because you literally just need a computer, which before you had to have whether it was on CD or vinyl, you had to have some kind of music collection, whereas it can now be acquired or you could even stream it.
Mm-hmm.
People do. I mean, there's DJ software that works with the streaming services as well, but I don't mean that in a negative way at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, but like knowing your record collection inside out is something that was like essential to DJing, wasn't it, back in the day? Like knowing all of those things that changed and where the timing.
But again, it's kind of like that's maybe how we did it or I did it. It's not completely essential. Like the story I was telling about Seven Nation Army, you can literally on the fly and still be very entertaining.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, how do you? Because on your mixes you play like really like a huge variety of music, and so sometimes it's not really about beat matching them to line them up. How do you sort of choose one tune after the next?
Usually there'll be some kind of thread that connects them, whether it's kind of a very loose thing like the drums might work over this, but sometimes it's kind of I've always said that beat matching is actually the least essential part about DJing.
Mm-hmm.
As long as it doesn't sound like the end of the world when you put one record on the next, like segueing is fine.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing wrong with a segue, but also beat matching for the sake of it is pretty bad. Like just to make two songs that are actually fighting against each other, really. Like I've heard that happen.
Yeah.
When it would be better, why not just fade one out and put the next one on?
Mm-hmm.
If it may sound a lot better.
Yeah. Do you ever mix with like effects, like a chaos pad or?
I've messed with the kind of like onboard effects, but not really.
The DJ M600.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone's done that. Your first thing you do is just like press the filter button like 400 times. Now it's just.
But never the phaser. Never the phaser.
You got to have your standards. You got to you got to have your rules. Cool. So how do you find new music then when you're DJing? Like where do you?
Varies. I've sent some. Bandcamp is really good resource. There's a site called BandCloud, which is a kind of a roundup of like what's good on SoundCloud and Bandcamp and things like that.
Right.
And just having relationships with people who run labels and your kind of contemporaries, it's good to kind of like check in with those people and see what they've got.
Mm-hmm.
But also it's fine. Also, I'm not someone who strictly plays new music as well. So it's about kind of, again, it's finding those threads of like, the good thing is I can hear a new record and think, oh, that would work well with like something I've never played but I've had knocking around that's 20 years old or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. And you have some DJing gigs lined up coming in this year, San Diego?
Just done it.
Just
done it, yeah.
Right, okay, wow, how was that?
Oh, it's fantastic. I got to do a back-to-back with Erol disco set under apparently the biggest disco ball on the West Coast, which was quite impressive. And we rarely go back to back, so that was a treat. I don't think we've really done it in the US before either. So
nice.
that was a treat.
Cool. Where did you play? What was the set?
It was a place called Bang Bang in San Diego. It was an after party for the Crossed Festival.
Right. Nice. And what are you talking about your sort of seminal DJing nights? You mentioned Osaka and Glasgow as being two of the most...
Well, I've referred to Osaka as the Glasgow, the two are London's Tokyo.
Right.
It's like it's kind of like the rowdier version.
Is it?
But I do have a rule that in the UK, the further north you go, the better it gets, generally. The crowds get better the further north you go.
Mm-hmm.
They get less reserved and less kind of precious.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with that. But do you class... Where is Birmingham in the north to you?
It's north of London. No, I don't class as north. I just mean the further north you go. Yeah, so you know.
Sorry, but yeah, I mean, I live in Brighton at the moment, and
right.
I do find crowds are very reserved. But I think maybe just because they're really stoned, because like mostly everyone's stoned in Brighton all the time, and I think that's why it happens there sometimes.
Right. Okay.
But I'm sure people are getting stoned up north as well, so I don't know whether.
Where's good to... I haven't played in Brighton in a long time. Where's actually good to go out in Brighton?
Ooh.
Flipping the interview.
Anywhere. I don't know. I don't really go out clubbing, to be honest. I just go to like weird geeky synth nights where there's people playing elastic bands that are with mic contacts on them and stuff.
Oh, there
like
you
go. The Haunt's really good. I tell you, the Haunt is a really good live venue.
I saw Royal Trucks there.
Yeah, Concord 2 is like standard, always really, really, really good.
Classic.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of great bands there.
Hope and Ruin is always good for live stuff. Like International Teachers of Pop are playing there fairly soon.
Okay.
I don't know if you know them. They're
someone mentioned them very recently. But
really good.
Okay.
Really good. It's it's like an offshoot of a band called the Moon Landings.
Oh, that's why. Yeah, I think that's why they were.
Yeah, so I'm probably not the best person to ask, but if you're gonna put me on the spot, I'd say the Haunt, Concord 2, and the Concord 2 is a safe one, and Hope and Ruin.
Well, I'm going to see Stereo Lab at the Concord 2.
Oh, yeah.
In the summer, yeah.
Cool.
And the Haunt, I was very impressed by the sound there.
Yeah, it's an odd shaped room, so you don't get standing waves.
Yeah.
So there's something. Yeah, there's something cool. Just make sure you.
It was loud but not oppressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
Perfect description of a great gig.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think Queen Kwong's playing there sometime
Okay.
soon, and I'm really looking forward to seeing her at the Haunt.
Is it Queen Kwong as in like married to Wes Borland, Queen Kwong?
I don't know.
Because I think it's
is.
He was in Limp Bizkit.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I don't know if she's married.
Okay.
Yeah, she does really good music though.
Okay.
Anyway. Yeah, you mentioned that you quite sort of like lo-fi cheap equipment. You quite like using that. Why? What draws you to that?
Just things. I mean, I love the possibilities that you get from being able to work in a computer and being able to edit and manipulate sounds, but at the same time, there's kind of like a grit. As amazing as plugins are, there's a grit that you can't really get without kind of air and kind of transistors.
Mm-hmm.
And it's usually kind of like, I mean, I'm a big pedal enthusiast.
Cool. Can I have a look at the pedals?
These are some here. Yeah.
Nice.
Some of the legendary Korg Black Label era.
Yeah. Wow, that is 1970s, isn't it? By the look of it.
That too as well. Black Label. Yeah. It's got Korg delay, Korg phaser, full tone choral flange, which is a very subtle but very great flanger. Korg octave, not Korg. Boss, yeah. Where is my mind?
Just if you say boss again, I'll just cut it in over away.
Boss.
And the synth pedal, is that?
Yeah.
Is it this? I love that thing. They're so good.
It's not dissimilar to a 303. The kind of sawtooth on it is very it's a really great kind of like crappy filter on it, and it's also really good for like kind of synth fuzz as well. But this is just the Boss board.
The Boss board,
yeah.
Right.
All sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
About.
And what I would used to do with synth pedal I had like that is put a drum machine into it.
That's exactly what I used to do with that when I
it up completely.
Yeah.
Same with the vocoder. I think there's a vocoder setting on the Zoom.
There is. Main reason they bought it originally was for the vocoder setting.
Yeah.
But it turns out like the ring modulator's a star on that, I think.
Yeah, the lo-fi, the sort of it has a bit crushery sort of one.
Yeah, there's that too. Yeah.
I think Circuit Benders does a modification to it as well, so you can starve the power. So if you've got like a reverb tail, it's like you can go.
Oh, okay.
Like, fuck it up and then speed it back up again.
Interesting.
Yeah, they're great. You know what? I interviewed Aid Fenton, who produced Gary Newman's latest album, and in amongst his glorious studio of like Soviet synths and all these crazy things, he had one of them right at the bottom. And I was like, "Fuck."
Well, Simi Moto Disco used to use one live. I doubt they do now, but in the early days, and they had very kind of like high end gear, but they had like one or two of those in the middle. But like I think they mainly used it for the ring mod as well.
Nice, yeah. I think there is something like crunchy. Yeah, as you say, the software is very clean and very predictable. Whereas sometimes these things, when they don't work, is when magic happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like the sort of weird harmonic things happen that you just can't get from software.
But the things I like about synths in general is it's not that so much that I'm kind of an analog snob, it's more that I like to be very hands-on. It's a kind of tactile nature more than anything.
Definitely.
I mean, modern soft synths are kind of amazing, really. But but they're kind of they're an approximation rather than kind of being. You can make an analog sounding patch on a soft synth.
Yeah,
but it's still kind of an approximation, isn't it?
Definitely. And I think the connection of your body actually making those things happen, there's a magic in that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's more than just your finger going and then there's the physical connection to it. Yeah, it's a huge deal. Nice, man. Is it all hooked up, ready to go? Should we just quickly jam?
Nothing's really hooked up at the minute. Chris playing that. There you go.
It's so sweet. I love the fact it's got it's got high pass and low pass filter, so you can band pass it.
Well, exactly. Yeah, the highs before the low. Yeah. Do a little pocket there.
Yeah, it's a beast. Nice. Cool. And you've got loads of other nice little bits and pieces.
It has been referred to by my friend Alex Warren, aka Kiwi, as Rory's junk shed before. So,
where synths go to die.
Yeah, exactly.
What's that called? Is that a drum machine?
This is a very odd Korg thing. It's kind of an all-in-one. Wow. It's called a super section.
Wow.
You can't really change the sound to it. It is analog, and it's sort of what's the Korg synth that looks like this design-wise?
Oh, the Monotribe.
Or the Poly 800.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's like the guts of a Poly 800, but kind of like with preset kind of rhythms and like synth lines, but like with the kind of stylistic. It's a very odd find.
I love it when there was a certain time in the 80s when they thought this was a good idea, wasn't it? No, we don't need keys anymore. We're just gonna press a piece of plastic. Yeah, wow! I've never ever seen anything like this before. That's cool. Super section.
She's very Japanese. It's a very Japanese kind of name for something.
Yeah. PSS 50. Wow, that's cool. And it looks like a groove box.
It sort of is, but you can't really create your own patterns. You can kind of, it will give you a kind of like a rhythm and a style, but it's like, the chord section on a Casio or something. You can change the chords a bit. It will still play in that kind of on the groove that they've decided, and like the bass line they've decided will kind of accompany it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is brilliant.
But like like an omnichord or something like that, it's a good little writing tool.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the Chemical Brothers always said about the way they made music was always they're making sounds, they're making noises, and that's where the music comes from. They're not sitting there going, well, if we put a minor suspended third here, this is gonna. They're not doing that.
No, the sound is the hook.
Yeah, like and that is such a great approach to making music.
Yeah, I mean, again, especially if you're working with machines and kind of, working on the fly.
Yeah, I love their stuff. Yeah, I guess maybe it would be interesting to talk to you about Keith Flint, and because he's committed suicide fairly recently, and like what your thoughts on him are, and how.
Well, the Prodigy were a huge band for me growing up. As I said, I was into kind of like rave things and rock things, and they were like a good kind of bridge band. Like there's that kind of connecting the dots thing as we've talked about earlier. Mm-hmm. They were a really good example of that. And the kind of their live shows, like mid to late 90s, were astonishing. Like it was very, very punk, but very, 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 very rave as well.
They had Giz Butt was the guitarist.
Yeah,
I
believe so.
with him.
Yeah.
So they had like live electronic, electric guitarist.
And also, like for years and years, when the Prodigy Experience came out, they were doing those PAs and kind of like still racks of live gear and kind of like it was probably overheating or whatever.
6 SH101s just in
case. Yeah, exactly. They were a very, very important band to me, and that was even before they were kind of as big as they were. But getting that music to number one is wild.
Yeah, who did they knock off the charts when it was with Breathe? It was like Robson and Jerome or something.
Oh, that's ridiculous. That's quite satisfying, isn't it?
It's unbelievable. That's fucking justice happening, isn't it? There's justice in the world. But yeah, really sad that he decided to take his life, and I'm sure there was a lot of details behind it that none of us are aware of. But what an amazing guy.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where I knew very little about him as a person, and it's kind of amazing their stories that have come out. It's not been kind of like they've been great stories about like how kind and kind of giving he was. It's just very sad that he felt he couldn't go on anymore.
Yeah, amazing guy. It took I don't know, what can you say? He was amazing. And he said you saw them live a few times as well.
Quite a lot in that kind of mid to late 90s when I was first starting to go to shows and festivals and things like that.
Just happened to be Fat of the Land era.
Oh no, no, I'd say music for Guilty Generation kind of era was when it
Poison.
Yeah. Well, there was that show that was kind of doing the rounds on Facebook and social media. It was like them at the Phoenix Festival. I don't know if you saw that. Mm-hmm. That was the first time I ever saw them, I think.
Wow.
And that was a hell of a show. It was like one of the hottest summers on record. It was just unbelievable.
Yeah, I think they had stories of when Liam first wrote Firestarter, and I'm not sure where the lyrics came from, but when they I think they recorded it in a hotel or something like that. They just did the vocals quickly in the hotel, and they ended up being the final vocals on the track. But they drove back from somewhere listening to Firestarter on loop because they knew that they'd made something magic.
Well, their first record, they were just like Keith and Maxim. They were the dancers. They would they didn't do any vocals on the first Prodigy record, but they were there in the artwork. They were part of the live show, and just seeing them kind of progress from kind of being almost started off almost as a novelty band.
Amazing. Leroy Thornhill as well, who then became Fright Crank, left them. But they did. I mean, they were so pivotal to the live thing. Maximum Keith, obviously Liam Howlett is incredible. He's like an amazing producer, brilliant performer, and like he's darkness personified almost. With Keith and Maxim, there's just so much energy on stage, like bouncing between the two of them. Yeah, incredible guy. You worked on. We've only really talked about Trash, but you have been involved in quite a few different club nights, haven't you?
Well, after Trash finished, we started one called Durr, which ran for a few years until the end closed down, and then we kind of became like a roving concern. But we took over the Monday night slot, and that was kind of occupied that kind of the kind of new rave years. So kind of the bands we booked kind of reflected that. But that involved me kind of taking over room 1, going from room 2 at the end, and that's kind of like taming a wild horse. But everything you play sounds 10 times bigger in that room, or sounded 10 times bigger in that room.
I see.
So that was like that was like, I mean, I was very confident in my abilities, but at the same time, I'd never really played anything on a sound system that powerful before. So that was a good education to have.
Definitely.
Having to kind of control that every week.
Yeah, like reining in the beast.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What sort of sound system do you know what it was like?
I think it was kind of like a Function 1 before Function 1. Like it looks very similar, but at the same time, I don't think Function 1 was kind of making as many kind of sound systems back then. I could be completely wrong on that, but it was this like there was walls of speakers. It was like
punchy.
Yeah, unbelievable, and also a great sounding DJ booth as well, which is quite rare.
Yeah, you've got a bit of a fascination with DJing with the telephone. I've noticed you mentioned that in a few interviews.
Well, that's something the first club I went to, which was the all ages rave club. The DJ there had a telephone. So that was the first DJ I ever saw had one. I didn't invent it by any means, but like a lot of the kind of old school guys have those things, and I've gone through very different. I've got various incarnations of mine. Currently on number 5, which is the best sounding of them all, I think.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you want to get one of those big 80s mobile phones? That's the next level.
Maybe that's it, yeah.
Battery lasts for approximately 3 minutes.
But it's a Sony driver inside, so it's kind of like a big headphone inside.
Nice.
It's not the stock telephone.
Yeah. It's not reception.
Yeah.
Nice, man. So that was you finished Durr, is that right? You finished
we finished with Durr. The end closed down 10 years ago, and then we did Durr as kind of like a series of kind of like one-offs at different venues, and then we kind of finally finished it. I can't remember what year it is now, but that's when we did the first Mixed Fortune show. Was it the final Durr, which was Roadblock Party at XOYO.
Was it?
Yeah, really, really great night.
Nice.
Great night.
Very cool. And you have a piece of the floor.
Yeah.
Of the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you got a place for that yet? Where's that
I'm actually planning on putting it at my feet at the studio, kind of Brian Wilson in the Sandbox style, to kind of send some vibes my way.
Nice. Yeah, you said you'd put in so much time on that dance floor. Yeah, it's amazing. That would be really cool. You never know what might happen then. You might just get something.
Some Mr. C's mojo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is he still around? Is he
I couldn't tell you. I'm pretty sure he's. I'm pretty sure he never went away.
Nice. So how about in London? Like, where for you's like cool to go to now? Where's a really good club night that you sort of admire and respect?
I don't know.
Like me and Brighton.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. So yeah, you did and you did another night called Say Yes, which was a disco night.
Yeah, I did a disco night with my friend Nadia Kasaiba for some years called Say Yes. That was again like lots of different venues. That was a small kind of fun thing, but it's kind of like a good excuse for us to kind of like stretch our disco muscles a bit. And she's always been one of my favourite DJs. So yeah.
Cool. Yeah, you've got quite a lot of experience of running nights. What would you say like the key elements to making a night work?
Is think about the experience of the people coming in, because it's very easy to set up a sound system and put on a night, but like it's small details like lights and movement and kind of like, is this an enjoyable room to be in? Is the room pleasant? Like, you know, because if people are handing over their money, then you should give them their money's worth.
Definitely. Yeah, lights make a huge difference to the atmosphere.
I've been to like a lot of parties where the music has been great, but there's been literally no moving lights, and it makes a huge difference, I think.
Especially now with people so accustomed to seeing like EDM shows where it's like Star Wars happening above you.
Yeah, you don't need to go that far, but it's like, you know, you can still be minimal and kind of warehousey, but still have kind of like movement and just kind of like things that kind of like, if there's energy in the room, it's kind of that will, you know, that's quite infectious, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. I remember drum and bass nights that we used to go to. It was in a place called the Cellars in Shrewsbury. It was underground, and it was like like Ministry of Sound said, it was one of the best club nights in the UK. It's a tiny drum and bass club, but yeah, the energy that you'd have in there, maybe 150 people or something, was phenomenal.
Yeah,
like really, you could feel it in the air when you walked in, and like all the big drum and bass acts used to play there. So yeah, I know exactly what that sense was.
Yeah,
tangible excitement.
exactly.
Stuff happening. Cool. You also worked in A&R for a time.
No, I don't want to.
Yeah, you said you didn't like it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
No one likes A&R, do they? It's like, it's not yeah. I did also pick up on a couple of things. You said you don't like to mix your own tracks.
Yeah, it's very easy to get demoitis, as they say. It's good to kind of like have someone kind of like essentially take it from you for a little bit and just kind of like freshen it up a bit. Obviously, not everyone feels the same. I mean, I feel like I'm like a lot of my remixes I've mixed myself, but I just feel like there are people that can do a better job than me.
Nice. Yeah, I think sometimes you do get, once you've heard the track 50,000 times, you're ready to give it to someone else to see whether, you know, it's still there or not.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same as kind of letting someone else do the artwork. It's, you know, it's just kind of handing over someone to make it. I've made the thing, now help me present it better.
Great. And then when it comes to like mastering, do you have like a go-to person?
It varied. I mean, I did a lot of my vinyl pressings with Curved, who've now they were actually next door to me in my old studio, but they've since moved to but now since the studio building has gone, they've moved to Hastings.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's not far from where I am. Are you gonna do you have anything on the cards?
I'm currently working on a bunch of stuff at the moment for an EP coming soon.
Oh, nice. So you're going back to the traditional formats.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think there should be like one in between an EP and an album. It's like 6 tracks or 7.
I feel like albums are getting shorter though, so and people are presenting 6 songs as an album. Like it's too many for an EP, but like we'll call it an album. Yeah,
there's a real blurring of like where we're going with music at the moment, and I think we just need a new name for 6 tracks.
just call it a release. I mean, I think it's kind of. It's funny that albums are kind of generally like a set number somewhere around 10. Like, why? Where did that come from?
Yeah.
I mean, it came. I guess it came from how many 3-minute pop songs would fit on 2 sides of a record, and we're still kind of in debt to that. And the thing is, if you're making dance music, a lot of those songs are a lot longer than that. So you're then going into like a 2-hour record if you have 10 songs.
Yeah. Which. Yeah, it leads me to quite an interesting point that you said about, which is I totally agree with it. Experience is a disability in dance music.
I
think I can quote you on that.
No. I don't remember saying that out loud.
Right, okay. But I totally agree with it. I think that's a really valid point because electronic.
I probably said that a while ago, but I think the tables have really turned on that because people are being very, reverent of club culture and kind of looking back a lot more and kind of looking for the people that did kind of like lead the way a bit. I'm not putting myself in that category, but it's quite amazing that these people are getting like a second shot at things. I listened to an interview with Kevin Saunderson recently, and he was saying that like he essentially wasn't working for years and years, but this new kind of focus on classic club culture has kind of given him. He's working every weekend now.
Yeah, one of the 3 guys who started techno. Am I correct?
Yeah. Well, yeah, one of the Belleville 3.
Yeah. That's amazing, isn't it? It's a little bit like the film The Wrestler. Have you seen that?
Yeah, that's The Wrestler. But the thing is, it's also the same. You know, I'd say it's very true in pop music where people there's an obsession with newness, and newness more than ever is the currency, because most media will just want to write. You know, it's kind of as old as pop music. It's not a complaint either, but it's just a realistic way of seeing it. It's people are going to focus on, if they're going to report, they're going to report on the shiny new thing.
Yeah, they want to say this 14-year-old Prodigy's just created the sickest new track
before moving on to the next 14-year-old Prodigy.
Yeah, we're done with him now. Remember the one we had last week? Yeah. Forget about him. Rather than saying this 55-year-old guy who's been working in music for 35 years.
Yeah, it's like, forget about Beethoven, it's Amadeus. It goes back that far.
Yeah,
that's essentially what happened.
Yeah, but I think it is a true thing, and
that might be. I might have got that the wrong way around, but yeah. Feel free to keep it though.
Yeah, no, I do feel that's a really valid point. You know, because I know lots of people who are really great producers who they just haven't they haven't had the success they deserve in my eyes. But I guess that's just like life, isn't it? That's just the way it goes.
The thing is, it's at the end of the day, it's show business. So, and you know, it's not meritocracy, is it?
Yeah, it's not 100% logical.
Yeah,
it's not necessarily fair. It's not built to be fair. It's built to make money.
Exactly.
Make people dance. Oh yeah, I would just on a side note, really, you seem to be a really big fan of television programs such as The Simpsons and Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Okay, yeah, it's true. Guilty as charged. Yeah.
So what, when did that sort of start, and what?
The Simpsons is one of those things that, again, I can't really imagine a time where it didn't exist. It's just the best TV show of all time, really.
Yeah, I mean, I saw you tweeting about it the other day, saying, "Oh, there's this particular episode is on."
It's one of those things where because it started when I was maybe about 12 or something, and it's kind of really shaped my sense of humour. It's one of a handful of things that has really shaped that, and so I'm grateful to it for that. Yeah,
I think for me, The Simpsons was the way the police force are portrayed was that's exactly what it's like. Incompetent, corruptible.
Yeah.
And the governors, people who are in charge, it's we're literally seeing that.
And the religious leaders,
now.
And
yeah, it's an amazing portrayal of reality. Sort of Curb Your Enthusiasm is also that, but it's just our own lives. Our own pitiful lives.
Well, everyone thinks they're Larry.
Yeah.
You know.
I love that scene when he's got married. I don't know if he's got married to, is it Loretta?
Yeah.
And then she gets cancer.
Yeah.
And he has that brain spasm. I think that's the funniest thing I've ever seen. I'd still laugh. I'll just lie in bed at night and just think about that. So I'm just absolutely pissed myself. So funny. Larry David is amazing.
I was more affected by Beloved Cunt from Curb Your Enthusiasm as just a masterpiece of comedy writing.
Which one is that? What happened to that?
He has to write an obituary for somebody, and it's supposed to be Beloved Aunt, but thanks to a typo in the newspaper, it comes out as Beloved Cunt.
And then they come in and read the newspaper, and someone else reads it.
Furious.
That is genius. There's also the carpool one, which is quite funny, where he needs to take a prostitute, and then these bosses come in, and it's just he's like, this is a prostitute. She's great. He doesn't even make any excuses. It's just she's a prostitute. What are you up to at the moment? What sort of things are you working on?
Still putting this place together, wiring wise, and getting up and running. Working on some new material. Your
EP, yeah, of course.
Some collabs that I'm not at liberty to talk about.
Excellent.
Yeah, just getting more music out because it's been a while.
Mm-hmm. Nice. And what format are you going? Where are you going with it in terms of formats?
We'll see when it's when it's done. But I would like to have some kind of physical format, whether that's a record or not, whether it's kind of an object or some other something tangible associated with it. Doesn't necessarily have to be able to play music on it. But working on some ideas on that front.
Nice. Yeah. And are any of your friends here going to be enlisted?
I'd say most of them are gonna get an appearance of some kind. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, you've got a formidable collection here.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Good. Okay. Well, thanks very much for speaking
my pleasure.
to me.
My pleasure.
It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you.
I
can put the heat back on now.
I really enjoyed talking to Rory. He's a lovely guy, and he's definitely a gearhead. He loves his analog synths. He's got a really nice collection of vintage stuff, more old than new. It's his sort of like the way I'm going really with my stuff. Yeah, an amazing guy, and you should check out his remixes, check out his DJ sets too. If you ever have a party and you need some music to go on, for me, Rory Phillips is like the default one. Everyone's going to be happy, everyone's going to love it. Do check out his music. Okay, next month I've got absolutely no idea who's going to be on yet again. You'll find out when I do. And I'd like to thank you again for listening. If you have a moment, please check out my remix of Battery Operated Orchestra, which is online and on Bandcamp. I'm MIDI Error. That was MIDI Error Meets. I'll see you again soon.